Assalamu alaikum and good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss our fourth module of the PSN thesis or the report. So the fourth and final module will be discussed today, which is the conclusion, references and the format of the references. So we'll be talking very quickly about the conclusion first, and then we'll go to the references and we will see different formats of references, the format that is allowed by UTM, and then the different examples of the references. Okay, so the learning outcomes of today's presentation or today's tutorial is that the student should be able to describe the need for the development of conclusions and references, describe and understand the various components of the conclusions section in the report, and they should be able to use correct citation using Harvard referencing system. So Harvard referencing system is the referencing system that we are going to use, and that is suggested by UTM. Okay, so just quickly go through the contents. The contents of today's presentation will be the two parts. Again, conclusion and references. In conclusion, we'll discuss about the introduction of the conclusion, the introductory part, the what are the characteristics and what are the qualities of the good conclusion, and then we will conclude our conclusion. And then for the references, we will have some introduction, what is the Harvard reference system, and the examples of different components of the references. Okay, first of all, we discuss about conclusion. Okay, what is conclusion? It is basically a statement that reaffirms the thesis statement, discusses the issues, and reaches a final judgment. So three things are covered by the conclusion: that it will reaffirm the thesis statement that you have given in chapter 1. It will discuss the issues that you have discussed throughout the thesis, and it will reach on a final judgment based on the results that you have obtained and you have showed in the previous chapters. Okay, so the conclusion is not a summary. Okay, so one thing we need to understand, that the conclusion is not a summary. It is just a belief based on your reasoning and on the evidence that you have accumulated. Okay, so you don't need to summarize the results in the conclusion part, but you have to give some reasons based on the evidence that you have produced in the shape of results. You have to give reasons and conclude the results. Okay, so the conclusion attempts to carry the examiner or reader to a new level of perception about the thesis. So whenever you are writing a thesis, you have to keep in mind that you are writing for the examiner. Okay, for the FYP thesis, you are writing for the examiner or the panel. So whenever an examiner reads your thesis, he should get a very clear picture, and then when we are going to the conclusion part, he should understand, okay, that's what the student wanted to do, and that is what he has done. Okay, so it's okay, so after all, the reader will hardly need reminding of things just read. Okay, so you don't need to summarize whatever you have already given in detail in the result part. You don't need to summarize that. Okay, you just have to make your own conclusion based on those results. No need to give the values of those results again here. Okay, because the reader or the examiner, he has already read that part, so he's not interested to get those results again here, but he wants to see what can you conclude from those results. Okay, however, it should particularly reaffirm the thesis statement. Okay, so the only thing that your conclusion must show is that what you have mentioned in the chapter 1 about your thesis statement, this should be concluded that yes, the thing that we have mentioned in chapter 1, we are going to reaffirm it here. Okay, as a thesis statement, seek to offer answers to the questions raised. Okay, if you remember, we have tried to find the research gap or the questions, okay, research question in the start of the thesis or the whatever project we are doing. We have some specific questions and objectives, so in the end those objectives should be portrayed here as a solved questions. Okay, the answer of those questions should be given in the conclusion part. Okay, so what is the purpose of conclusion? The purpose of conclusion is to tie together or integrate the various issues, research, etc. covered in the body of thesis. Okay, so we have already covered many things in the body of thesis, including the results, methodology, literature review. Okay, so now what we have to do, we have to take all those things and we have to tie them together to make a conclusion. Okay, so this is the purpose of the conclusion. Okay, And the conclusion chapter or section seeks to tie together again, integrate and synthesize the various issues raised in the discussion session whilst reflecting the introductory thesis statement. Okay, again this thesis statement is coming again and again here. So thesis statements and objectives. Okay, so your conclusion must reflect those two things. Okay, and provide answers to the thesis research questions that we have discussed previously, and to identify theoretical and policy implications of the study with respect to the overall study area. Okay, so you have to, because you have already related, you have already got the results in your project. Okay, now you have to explain them theoretically, okay, which you have done in chapter 4 or the results part. Now what you have to do is you have to just make a conclusion based on those results and the theory that you have mentioned in the previous chapters. Okay, and then also one of the important thing is to highlight the study limitations. Okay, so whenever we are able to highlight the limitation of study, it means that we are very aware of what we have done. We understand fully our project, and we know what were the limitations and what can be done in the future. So from the limitation we can give the suggestion for the future work as well, which is one of the chapter or the conclusion, one of the part of the conclusion. Okay, so after the purpose, what should be the contents of a good conclusion chapter? Okay, it should be logical, ending synthesizing what has been previously discussed and never contain any new information or material. So you have to remember that the conclusion should not contain new information or material. Okay, it's just a conclusion based on what you have already provided in the previous chapter. So there is nothing new in the conclusion, just a statement that cover all. Okay, that conclude everything that you have already mentioned. Okay, so it must pull together all the parts of your argument and refer the reader back to the focus you have outlined in your introduction. So this conclusion part is directly related with the introduction part, which is your chapter 1. So mean that if someone reads chapter 1 of your thesis, okay, let's say examiner gets your thesis at the last minute, like most of you are used to submit your reports at the last minute. So let's say examiner doesn't have chance to go through all the results. So what he will do, he will study the chapter 1. He will see what were the objectives, what were the research questions, what were the thesis statement, and then from there he will go to conclusion. He will just quickly go through results. He doesn't have enough time to read all the results and explanations. So he will go to the conclusion part, and then he will read the conclusion. Then these two chapters should be so clear that if someone read only chapter 1 and the conclusion, he should get the whole idea, whole picture of the project that you have done. Okay, so if he can go through quickly to the results without going to the detail, he should still be able to understand what have you done in your project. Okay, so the chapter 1 is related to the conclusion part very thoroughly. So the conclusion should be systematic, okay, and brief. Okay, no need to give too much details. Maximum up to 5 pages, which is, I think, is again too much. Should be even less than 5 pages for an undergraduate project, because this is not a summary. This is not the explanation. This is just a conclusion. So you have to make sure that you should be very specific and very systematic. No need to give all the theory and details and results again. Okay, and it should add to the overall quality and impact of the work that you have done. Okay, again the good conclusion, what should it contain? It should contain, the conclusion chapter is more than just a summary of the chapters or data you have presented in the main thesis or dissertation. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, it should not be a summary, it's a conclusion. Okay, along with providing a synthesis of the key findings and arguments projected by the research or the project, it should make a stand regarding the thesis statement. Okay, again this is what you are going to prove that your work is what you have mentioned in the thesis statement. Okay, so what you have done is exactly according to the thesis statement is should be seen from the conclusion. Okay, to do this effectively, the conclusion has to be developed with a clear structure, each section providing a specific insight into the study. Okay, Hence, the conclusion should be able to stand on its own and provide a justification and defense of the thesis. Okay, so again, this is the statement or the part that will defend your thesis, and the structure of the conclusion should be very clear. What is the structure of conclusion? Okay, so in the structure part, we should have four things in the structure of the conclusion. First of all, we have introduction of the conclusion. Okay, then we have the theoretical and policy implications in the middle of the conclusion. All the things that we have mentioned that we want to relate theoretically and we want to give statements based on our results. This should be the middle part, and then it should end with the future directions. Okay, and the conclusion of the conclusion. So future directions should also contain the limitation, because once we know the limitation of our project, we can give very easily what will be the future recommendations for this project, how the upcoming students or the person who wants to continue this project can improve the results or can get something better from out of the work that you have done. Okay, so we will see all these parts, the structure of this conclusion one by one. Okay, the starting, the mid, and the end. So the conclusion chapter should have a definite introduction. Okay, first of all, the introduction, it must have an introduction, but the introduction is, there's no heading. Okay, when you are writing your chapter 5 conclusion and future recommendations, there's no heading like, okay, introduction of the conclusion. Okay, but the first paragraph or first two paragraphs should be the introductory paragraph. Okay, the introduction should restate the research question that study set out to answer and clearly justify the necessity of such a course. Okay, so the introduction should cover whatever you have mentioned in the objectives of the chapter 1, objective of the work in the chapter 1, and also this thesis statement, the background, and also the methodology that you have used. So all this should be concluded in the introduction of the conclusion. Okay, conversely, this section must indicate a problem, controversy, or a gap in the field of study. Okay, whatever you have mentioned in chapter 1 in the thesis statement, okay, in the research problem, that should be again mentioned here, but not with the same wording. Okay, it should be some different paraphrasing. So you should be using different wording to mention the same thing, so that the reader can know or can understand what you are going to do in this project. Okay, so what are the strategies for developing a good introduction? First of all, content and structure of the introduction. It should begin with a sentence that refers to the main subject of the discussion in the dissertation or thesis. So it's the same thing that you have in the chapter 1, but this writing style or the sentence should be different. Okay, but it should reflect the same thing that we have mentioned in the objectives. It should indicate the importance of the subject discussed, and also it should restate the research question as presented in the introduction chapter. Okay, so whatever research question you have there, those should be also in the introduction part of the conclusion, so that the reader can understand it very clearly. Okay, so now the mid part of the conclusion is the theoretical and policy implications and empirical findings. Okay, so this part should discuss whatever you have shown in your chapter 3 and 4. Okay, mostly in the chapter 4, the results that you have obtained and how you can theoretically relate those results with the theory based on the previous references. Okay, so the discussion under this session should provide a synthesis of the empirical finding from the study with respect to the individual research questions. Okay, and again, you don't need to summarize. Okay, this can be done by including a brief summary of the main findings. So summary is already there for every chapter. You have a conclusion in the end of chapter, right? So for the, let's say for chapter 3 in the methodology part, or chapter 2 the the literature review part, and chapter 4 the results and discussion part, whenever you are going to finish the chapter, there is the conclusion of the chapter. Okay, so in that conclusion of the chapter you can summarize, but when you are writing another chapter 5, which is conclusion itself, you cannot summarize. Okay, so summary should not be included here, but it should be purely a conclusion. Okay, so it is bad to simply repeat earlier arguments. Whatever you have already mentioned in your chapter 4, chapter 3, you don't need to repeat again and again here. Okay, you should have something new here. Just put them all together, tie them together, and present in a conclusive way. Okay, do this systematically for all different research questions of the dissertation or thesis. Okay, so if you have multiple questions, means the conclusion should give the answer of all those multiple questions. Then you may give a brief summary of your argument and identify the main reasons, causes, factors that relate to the questions you have. So theoretically, you have to justify as well in this part the work that you have already presented previously. Okay, if there are two or more part of the question, be sure to include responses to each part in your question. As I mentioned, if you have multiple questions, mean that the conclusion should address all those questions one by one. Okay, so all the answers of the question that you have in chapter 1 should be given in this conclusion part. Okay, so the last part of the structure of the conclusion is the recommendation for future research. Okay, again, as I mentioned, so additional elements that may be added include recommendations for future action and speculation on future trends. Okay, so future recommendations is one of the part of your PSN thesis that must be there. So it should outline your plans regarding further research of the topic. If you are, let's say you are, when you want to mention the future recommendation, you have to mention like you are going to do it, okay, or you are going to supervise other or guide others how what should they do in order to improve this project. Okay, you can provide such an outline in bullet points. Okay, you can either provide in the bullet points or provide the brief explanation in the form of the paragraphs. It's up to you. Okay, but you have to keep this simple and short, a maximum of 1 page in the case of PhD thesis and less than half a page for the dissertation. So in your case it should be less than 1 page. It should be half page for the future recommendations. If these are in the bullet forms, just 5 to 6 bullet points should be more than enough. Okay, and then some explanation. Okay, this future recommendation will tell the examiner that you know your field of study and you are thinking ahead of the present challenges. So before the examiner asks you questions about future, you should show him that I already know what I have done, and I have done a detailed literature review, and I have got very good grasp on this subject that I have tried to study here in this project, and I can answer other questions so that it can so that someone else can improve this project in future. Okay, so it's a good impact on the examiner or the reader. Then there are the limitations of the study. So as I mentioned earlier, the limitation of study is very important. So if you mention in conclusion all the limitations, means that you have done your project by yourself and you know exactly what have you done. So if you know exactly what have you done, one thing you can give good future recommendations, and other thing you can give answer to the examiners, and also you can have good impact on the examiner. Okay, so in the case of an empirical research, it is important to identify the various limitations which were encountered. Okay, so once you know the limitations, okay, so you can explain if you don't have those limitations, or if you have good facilities, let's say you have large scale facilities, then you can produce much better results. But the result that you have shown is just a demonstration. But if you have good facilities, you can show much better results. Okay, so some supervisor and examiners would prefer that this section is included in the section on limitation in the methodology chapter. Okay, so some supervisors, they prefer that you put the limitations in the methodology so that examiner can read directly from there, and then he can get good idea about what you are going to do in the chapter 4 and the conclusion part. But some supervisors say put in the conclusion so that the examiner can read there, but it depends on the supervisor and the student. So you should discuss with your supervisor where you want to put it and where is it suitable. Okay, so this could also be combined with the section on future research, demonstrating how future research could fill in the gaps. Okay, the gaps that you have shown in the chapter 1, and also you have mentioned because of the limitation you cannot fill those gaps, then how someone else can improve the methodology, and with some less limitations he can fill in those gaps. Okay, so it can be combined with the future recommendations as well. Okay, so the final part of the conclusion is the conclusion of the conclusion. Okay, so once you are writing a conclusion, you have already got the introduction of the conclusion, the first 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then you have got the theoretical and policy implications, and also the theory and empirical formulation, everything in the conclusion, in the mid of the conclusion. Then you give the future recommendation and limitation. Now the finally it should be the conclusion of the conclusion. Okay, it's a good idea to add a sentence or two. It should not be very detailed. Okay, the conclusion of the conclusion is not something very detailed. It's just one sentence or two, but it will give a good impact on the reader or the examiner that you are going to conclude. Okay, this is something like you are watching a movie or a drama. When it finishes, there is a conclusion. Okay, you have already given all the story in your thesis, but once you are finishing, you are still going to give a very brief conclusion so that it can give a good impact on the reader and he can understand exactly what you have done. Okay, so it can be just 2 or 3 sentences or a very short paragraph. Okay, so you must have a conclusion of the conclusion, so it will feel that the reader, it will make the reader feel that it has been worth his or her while to read the thesis, and that the area of study has advanced with your work. Okay, so it's going to show two things. One thing is going to have good impact on the reader, and others is going to show that whatever you have done is you are going to show some improvement in terms of the previous work or as compared to the previous work. Okay, so okay, so then one of the important thing of a good conclusion is that you have to structure your paragraph. How you want to structure your paragraph? You should use writing convention to make ideas clearer. Okay, sequencing points. For example, you have to use first, second, third, fourth. Like, okay, initially I have done this, and then this is what we can. Secondly, the conclusion is this, and finally we can conclude that our research shows a much improvement as compared to the previous. So you have to use wording like this, that. Okay, and then when you are using contrasting ideas, you should use wording like in contrast, on one hand, on the other hand, whereas, something like that. Okay, and then add emphasis like not only this my work has proved this, but also it gives a good explanation for the future work. Okay, like that. Or you can use the word like moreover, okay, moreover, furthermore. Okay, things like that. Okay, wording like that. So the structure should be very clear of the conclusion, so that the reader can get it clearly and can get good idea of your work. Okay, what else you can do for the structuring? You can link the thinking between your paragraphs within each section. Okay, so you have different section, as I mentioned earlier. We have different section including the introduction. Okay, theory in the mid, and then we have future direction and conclusion. So all of them should be linked together. Okay, so when reader read, he can feel like a story. Okay, this paragraph is related with the previous one, and the previous was related with the previous one. Okay, so keep your ideas as writer clearly distinguished from thoughts of cited literature sources. Okay, note the progress of your argument at each stage. In summary, clearly, one of the most noteworthy significant issues to consider. It is interesting to note that. Okay, so you have to use wording like that. In summary, or you have to say clearly or significantly. Okay, the significant improvement I have shown in my work, or significant improvement is shown in this work in terms of 1 2 3, like that. Or it is interesting to note that this work also shows a very clear improvement as compared to the work done by the previous previous researchers or previous people who have done work on this. Okay, so all this should be included in your conclusion. So this should be a good conclusion, so that the reader can read and he can understand all your work in no time. Okay, so the next section is the references. So we will discuss the references here. Okay, Okay, so before we go into the examples of references, general rules. Okay, the general rules are what? Authors, single authors. When there's a single author, you should name the family name first. Okay, you should use the family name first, then a comma and a space followed by initials. Okay, for example, John A. Okay, so for example, someone name is Anthony John. So when you are going to put in reference, you should mention John, comma A dot. Okay, so first name is just the initial of the first name. If there are two authors, then you can use the word and in between. For example, Muhammad A. Let's say someone is name is Arslan Muhammad or Arif Muhammad. So A here and then before that Muhammad and comma A dot, and then someone, let's say Jamal Khan. So J should be there and then Khan should be before J. Okay, Khan comma J dot. So this is the general rule for the authors. Okay, so when you have three or more authors, same, you can do the same thing. Okay, so for example, someone's name is like this, you cannot separate first and second name, so you put both of them like this and then the initial name here. Okay, so let's say these are the last two names that cannot be separated, but first name is can be separated, so you can put the first name here and the second third name here. Similarly, for someone who has two names, like in the previous example Patel, let's say Varun Patel, so you mention Patel first and then V dot, and same for the others. Okay, in your list of references you must always list all the authors in your text if there are three. So in the list, if there are, let's say, 3 4 5 or 6 authors, you have to put all of them in the referencing list. But when you are mentioning in the text, okay, you don't need to mention more than 3 authors or 2 or 3 authors, but it depends on what referencing style you use. So when you are writing in that text, you can mention as this Petrus et al. Okay, et al means and others. So let's say Petrus, this Petrus have three more authors. So you mention only Petrus here and then others 2009 investigated blah blah blah. But when you are going to put them in the references in the end of your thesis, you have to put all of them like this. Whatever number of authors, let's say if there are 6 or 7 authors, you have to put all of them in the list as well. Okay, so if there are editors, okay, so editors like editors of the book, editors are different from the authors, like they are not writing the book, but they are collecting book chapters from different authors and they are going to edit them and manage them, so they are called the editors. So when there is the editor of the book, then you have to write the word ed in the end. Okay, so just to highlight that this guy is the editor, not the writer of the book. Okay, what is an author and not an author? So just to differentiate between author and not an author, the chairman or a chairwoman of government or other reports are not authors. Okay, so let's say some organization is going to prepare a book, so they will put the name of the chairman outside, but that chairman or chairwoman will not be the author. Okay, and neither are the compilers, illustrators. Okay, so these people, these are not the authors. Okay, translators, arrangers, photographers, even the editors, they are not the authors. Okay, instead use a corporate author, see next. Okay, so in this case, when we have like this, either the chairman or woman, we will use the corporate author. So what is a corporate author? The corporate author is a group which takes responsibility for writing a publication. So this it's a group. Okay, it's not a individual, it's a group which takes the responsibility for writing a publication. So in that case, we don't need to mention the names of all the group. Okay, all the people in the group, we just can mention the uh, company name or the group name, like Great Britain Department of Education and Skills. So if we are going to put reference of something, some report that have been produced by this Great Britain Department of Education and Skills, we just write like this. Okay, instead of giving all the names of the people inside that group. Okay, so what other general rules? We have rules for the dates. Okay, so for example, if there are different editions of some book or some journal, first one is in 89, 1992, and they have edition in every year, so we have to put the edition that was the first one. Okay, we have to put 1989 in that case. Okay, and then we have to put if the date you find on the source material comes from anywhere other than that titles page, such as from the preface or introduction, or from an outside source such as bibliography or library catalog, put it in the square. Okay, so if there is a book published but there is no date outside that book, then you should put that date inside the brackets. Okay, if not possible to ascertain the date, put the following: ND or undated or no date. Okay, ND is no date. So if you cannot find the date, you have to put in square brackets ND or undated or no date. Okay, so we'll see the examples and it will be much clearer. Okay, similarly there are rules for the titles. I leave it to you to go through if you have something like this. Okay, so, but I will try to go through the examples so that it could be much clear. Okay, so addition, also we have to put the addition on the for the book or the journal. Whatever we are going to cite, we have to put addition if possible. Okay, if the book has multiple editions, we have to put whichever edition we are going to put in the reference. Okay, like third edition, fourth edition, or something like that. Okay, and similarly if the book is published in different countries, okay, and different cities, then we have to mention the first one. Okay, for example, if it is published in Oxford, London, it's published in New York as well, Hong Kong, is mentioned inside the book like this. So we will just take the first one. We don't need to give all this. Okay, New York, Hong Kong, no need, only we can give the first one. And then we have to clearly highlight the publisher. Who is the publisher? Okay, if the item is published, give the name of the publisher as it appears on the item. For example, Facet publication. If the item is unpublished, it may still be possible to give the name of the body responsible. Okay, so if something is unpublished like thesis or something, then you can give it like this. You can mention unpublished PhD thesis, University of Loughborough, or whatever university was that. Okay, other information like ISBN number or DOI number, some of them, some of the journals and books, they have this. You can also include that in the referencing as well. Okay, so going to the examples. Okay, for the book, there are things. What are the things? First of all, you must have the author, the date, title, place, and publisher. So in this example, this is the author. Okay, Turney J. Okay, last name is Turney, J is the first name. Then you have the date of publication 2006 here, the title of the book, the place of publication, and the publisher. Okay, so all this information must be inside the reference of your thesis. Okay, because you are going to use the Harvard style. So let's say if you are using Mendeley or you are using EndNote. Okay, so whatever you are using, whatever software you are using you to organize your references, you must have all this information in that software. Okay, let's say if you are using Mendeley, then you have to make sure that all this is already available in the Mendeley. So once it is already available in the Mendeley, you can just automatically put the referencing and then the Harvard style referencing, and it will appear as it is. Okay, all the information will appear. If some information missing, means the information is missing in the database of the your Mendeley, you have to update there. Okay, so if there are books and parts of books, okay, let's say you are citing or you are giving a reference to the some particular specific section or chapter of the book, then you have to mention that in the reference as well. For example, this book, let's say this example. Okay, Grimshaw is the author and Templeton are, okay, 1995 the date, and then aspects of engineering surface in design and development. Okay, so this is the chapter in the book. Okay, in which book? In Waterhouse, and this is the editor names. Okay, we have mentioned here editors, and this is the name of the book, Management and Business Studies in the Built Environment. Where is it published? London Spawn. Okay, so you have to give all this information. If you are referencing to the particular chapter, you have to give the name of this chapter as well. Okay, so another example for the electronic books is also the same, but as the book, but you have to put the other information like the address of the website. Okay, so in the case you have the book from the internet, then you have to mention from where you got it. Okay, available at the website address, and when you have viewed that on the date, so that if the book is later missing on that link, so you have the proof that you have accessed that book on this date, not the date that your thesis was published. Okay, so for the general article, again you have the following information that must be there: the authors, the year, article title, journal title, okay, which is different than the article title. We will see in the examples. The volume, part of issue. Okay, so these things, if they are available, we have to put. If they are not available, we cannot put. For example, some of the journals, they don't have the part or issue, but volume mostly they have. So this one will be there always. This one sometime may be there, sometime not there. Okay, date and month. If no volume, or there is a volume but no part or issue number. So if there is no volume, then we will have the date and month of the journal and the page numbers. So page numbers is also important, because the journal is published, the article is published in the journal. Let's say the journal starts from page number 1 until page number 200. So we have to highlight this article is, let's say, from page number 55 until page number 65, like that. Okay, so the example, so we have the author's name here, Kushner GB, the date, the title of the article, the journal title. Okay, so this is the name of the journal, and this is inside that journal the title of the article. So both of them are different, so you have to give both of them. Volume number, then this is issue. Sometimes they give it as issue or number, so you have to see the journal. So you can either write in number NO or issue, and then PP represent the page numbers. Okay, 60 until 61. So all this information should be available in the referencing. Okay, if you refer to review, you should also include the details of the work being reviewed. Okay, so sometimes there is a journal article published, and then someone also reviews that article, okay, and publish it again. So for example, this Sanderson, he is the author. He published this article in 2005. Okay, and this is the review title, traveling with an anti-tourist. So who is the original author of the reviewed work? The author was Daniel Calader. Okay, this and this is a book review. So the bookseller, the journal title, okay, title of the reviewed work, the journal title, the issue number, okay, the date. Okay, when we don't have the volume, we have to give the date. Okay, and then page number 37. So if this is just page number 37, we can highlight page number 37, or if we know that this is page number 37 until 50, so we mention page number 37 until 50. Okay, then is the journal article again. Okay, electronics journal article, if it is electronically available, then we have to again add the information from where we have got online version via Sweats Wise. Okay, we have to mention which website we have got it and when. Okay, the other information is same: the authors, the title of the paper, journal title, okay, online setting, studies in continuing, the volume number, the issue or number, and the page number, and then we just have to add the website information and the date we have viewed. Okay, in the case of news articles, they are treated in the same way as journals again. Okay, so we have the author, we have the title. Okay, but in the news article we have to mention exact date, when was that published, on June 25, 2006, which page of the news paper, on the page number 29. Okay, so if it's an online newspaper, then we have to give all this information: author, okay, year, title, name, okay, type of medium, additional date, available at which website, and the access date. Okay, so example is, here we have the authors, okay, year or date, the title, okay, from where we have got, from the internet, okay, on this published on this date. Okay, and then this is what we have accessed this newspaper article online from this Guardian. Okay, this is the complete address, accessed when, 4th March 2010. Okay, so this is how we are going to give the reference of the news article. Then for the websites again, so websites have almost same rules, okay, but we have to give lesser information. For example, uh, okay, this is the okay, let's say a web page should be treated similarly to a print work, okay, as previously, okay, and then okay, website is published by that government and department and may also give an address in the about us or contact us. You should include the full address of the web page and also the date on which you accessed. Okay, so for example, this article was published on website, so you mention the author name, the year, okay, and then give the title and then the website name and when you have accessed. So whenever there is something that you have accessed online, you have to give the website and the access date. Okay, coming to the conference proceedings, again the rules are almost same. We have the author, date, title, the place and publisher. Okay, there may be a separate title or the title may be the name of the conference, either preceded or followed by the word proceeding. Okay, we'll see the example about this. Okay, for example, Tudor Symposium, the Anatomy of Tudor Literature proceeding of the first international conference of the Tudor Symposium 1998-2001, Aldershot, Ascot. So in this case, we have the author name in the end. Okay, let's see the example. Okay, so this is the example of the conference paper. We have Gibson J. Okay, J. Gibson is name, the year. Okay, remapping of this Tudor Symposium, the Anatomy of Tudor Literature proceedings. Okay, then this is the name of the conference, proceedings of the first international conference of the Tudor Symposium 1998-2001. Okay, Aldershot, Ascot, PP, and then this is the place and the page numbers. Okay, so all the information same as the journal, but just the different formatting. So we have to make sure that in Mendeley or EndNote, whichever software we are going to use, we have put all the detailed information of the paper or the article inside there, so that when we give automatically Harvard style, it will appear in this style, but it will be having all the components that we are going to need here. Okay, similarly for dissertation, it is similar to the book. So we have the authors for the dissertation thesis, the year. Let's say you are going to refer to someone PhD thesis or master thesis. So you have the authors, the year, the title of the thesis, type of thesis, either this is master's or PhD, and then you have to mention the university. Okay. So the verbal materials, let's say lectures. Okay, lectures will have an author, usually the person delivering the lecture. Okay, a year, possibly a title for the lecture, a module name and number and course of which it is a part, a place where it was delivered and a date on which it was delivered. So it's very rare that we refer to someone lectures in our thesis, but in case if you have lecture, then you have to include all this information, the authors or the person who was delivering the lecture, the year, okay, the title of the lecture, okay, and the place, Birmingham, and with date, exact date we can mention. Okay, but this case we use very rarely. Okay, again, interviews. Let's say if your project is something that you are going to interview different person, so let's say you want to quote exactly what the person X or person Wilson H, let's say Harvard Wilson, his name, he said something. So how you can quote is that you put his name, the date or the year first, and the title, what interview on library services, okay, what you are interviewing and conducted by your name if you are the interviewer, on what date, and the place. Okay, so all this information you have to mention, but this verbal material we rarely used in our references. Okay, so these are different types of references that we have in our thesis. So I hope it is clear how you can give the references. So the important thing is that you must have all the informations about the references. Once you put all the information inside the Mendeley or whatever software you are using, EndNote or Mendeley, these are two commonly used softwares. So let's say if you are using Mendeley and you have put all the information there, then you just have to automatically generate the references and it will appear with all the information that we need. Okay, so I hope all this is clear. If you have further questions, you can ask the PSM committee or you can ask me as well. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and good day everyone.